This is the Reviewing Network Live, a weekly stream of consciousness recording session where I sit back with you folks out there, talk about some of the big news stories from the past week, and some other things I found that might be of amusement to you out there. I think you might get a kick out of it. Now, these are more like audio podcasts and are much longer than my usual videos and are also, for the most part, unedited and will contain some foul language. So, if you're easily offended by that, I advise you to maybe step back a bit, maybe go somewhere else. But hey, if you're up to the challenge, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Thanks. And for the 136th time, but the first time on a Monday night, we are live from the Reviewing Network studios. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Reviewing Network Live, another episode coming to you, like I said, on a Monday night for a couple of reasons. One, this past weekend was Steel City Con, and I was just way too tired yesterday to do an episode of the regular day. Not to mention, I had a time about the movies episode I had to do that ended up being an hour long because I was covering 19 movies from 2015. So yeah, that's why the show is running a little bit late for one reason. The other reason is that tonight is the beginning of Cinemacon, and right now we're about 30 minutes away from the time I'm recording this at 9 o'clock on Monday, April 13th from Sony doing their presentation, so we're expecting to hear a lot from them, and so I figure, why not just do it tonight when this is going on? So if there's any big breaking news, we can cover it into this show here. We have a lot to cover this week. Like I said, it was a busy week in terms of movie news, and I knew for some reason it was going to be that, because I said it last week on the show. But yeah, so that's where we're currently at right now. So we'll get to those stories. We'll get to what's going on at CinemaCon once that begins. It should be at about 9:30 Eastern Standard Time, 6:30 Pacific. But with that, before we get to any of that, though, let's get to the weekend box office, which was not really all that exciting overall. The top three movies, essentially, were still hanging in there. But we have one new movie to talk about here, and it's notable for one particular reason, which we'll get to in just a second here. But let's get to it. Let's start with the number 5 film. Hopper's still hanging in there. $4.2 million this weekend, dropping 28.6% after 6 weeks, bringing in its total to $157.2 million domestically. If you include worldwide numbers, at $354 million, which, I gotta say, for a movie that's coming right as the Super Mario Galaxy movie should probably be taking away its business, it's been hanging in there pretty well the last couple of weeks, so I'm glad to see that it's doing that. It is on its way out, and like I said, with a big family film that's currently out right now, pretty much the only big family film out there, maybe that's why Hoppers is taking advantage of a lesser droppage than usual with another family film coming into play here. But with that said, though, let's get to the most intriguing movie on this list here, our only new release this week, and that is the number 4 movie, You, Me, and Tuscany. This is, of course, the new Universal romantic comedy starring Halle Bailey from The Little Mermaid and Regina Page from Bridgerton, in a movie where Bailey plays a woman who crashes at an empty Italian villa posing as the owner's fiancée and discovers an unexpected romance that could transform her life. So, here's the thing about this movie. It didn't get the biggest marketing push. I mean, I literally didn't see a whole lot of previews for it. I saw one, which I actually recorded on the show. I think it was actually last week or maybe the week before that, but it was during a Sunday night basketball game on NBC. But other than that, though, besides the trailer, there was really not a whole lot of advertising for this movie out there, which is interesting because everyone out there is making it seem like we need to see this movie or they're not going to make movies like this anymore. I mean, that was one of the big stories that was happening with this. But like I said, I don't even think I told you how much it made. It brought in $7.7 million, which is not great, but it has an $18 million budget to it. It has an A- cinema score, which usually means it might stick around a little bit to at least make its money back, but it's not a good opening for this particular movie in general. I saw it. It was actually kind of a fun movie. It's a simple, effective, breezy film that doesn't really need to really up the stakes or anything. It could just be a simplistic formula romantic comedy, and I've said romantic comedies can be simplistic and formulaic if they want to. They can have predictable stories. As long as the two leads are really making it work, it's fine for what it is. It's a really good movie. I liked it. I liked it with Bailey and Regina Page with some nice chemistry together here. But Yeah, without a big marketing push for this, it's not shocking to see why this film didn't do as well as I think they wanted it to. And you open it in 3,000 theaters, so if you're going to put it in 3,000 theaters, market the movie. I mean, the drama, which we'll get to in just a second here, was also in 3,000 theaters. I didn't see one preview for that, and yet that movie is doing much better than this film is. And I bring this up because because weeks before there was this thing bubbling around that, this movie's got to be a hit. You, Me, and Tuscany has to be a hit, or Hollywood's not going to make these movies anymore. And you would think with a movie like this, with that much behind it, you would think that Universal would want to, market the film more. I mean, you've got two of the hottest stars at the time right now. You have Halle Bailey, who was just in The Little Mermaid and The Color Purple a couple years ago, and Regine Page broke out big with Bridgerton, and I think he might be on his way to becoming James Bond if he's lucky. But I mean, these are two rising stars. This is the director who has made a hit with Universal beforehand, Marry Me, which I did not like that movie, but it was a hit nevertheless. But this one, there was a lot of people who were riding behind, looking at this movie, hoping it's successful. In fact, I got a story here from the Hollywood Reporter that kind of delves more into this, and it says that, let me just go ahead and read the parts I want to talk about here, but just the fact that the movie is getting a theatrical release has spurred celebration on social media, with fans of the genre noting that a romantic comedy with black leads had not hit the big screen since 2012's Think Like a Man. That is incorrect, because I can think of several other ones, but the topic spurred debate, with filmmaker Nina Lee posting last month that industry decision makers appear to be using You, Me, and Tuscany's impending box office results to determine whether to move forward with other romantic projects with black stars. Met with the studio with my already shot rom-com, and they won't buy it until they see how You, Me, and Tuscany does. Will Packard, the film producer behind the movie, Think Like a Man, Ghost Trip, Ride Along, and other titles, tells the Hollywood Reporter that the challenge for getting such features into theaters stems not only from the industry's very paltry record when it comes to films that highlight diverse leads, but also that rom-coms have been deemed as a genre that can be relegated to Netflix streaming offerings or TV films on Lifetime. Make no mistake, I remember the golden era of rom-coms, and even black rom-coms. Love and Basketball, The Best Man, Think Like a Man, Brown Sugar, Two Can Play That Game, you name it. Audiences were showing up in theaters and enjoying these movies, so people do have to understand that Hollywood is a reactive industry, and there's an opportunity to say that this type of film with these type of leads, with the audience that enjoys these type of films, are profitable and worth making, and Hollywood will make more of them. Lee tells the Hollywood Reporter that the film she referenced, That's Her, which was announced last week as premiering next month at the American Black Film Festival in Miami, was self-financed by the movie's lead, Dwayne Cawley, known as content creator Country Wayne. Lee points out that rising filmmakers are advised to go forward with independently shooting their own projects, but that there is not a straightforward pipeline for the next steps. So, it's weird. It's weird that we're seeing this right now with this movie being so watched over. You would think that people would probably make a bigger push for it, but even the people that should be making this movie more known to people, they aren't really doing a whole lot of that with this. And it's a shame, because, like I said, the movie actually is really good. It is actually a very good film. It's a movie that doesn't have to ask you to it doesn't have to ask you to do a lot of things. Just sit back, relax, and just enjoy a really good movie. And that's exactly what you get here with this. It's a really good, simple movie where you could take your girl, you could take your date out there and have a good time with it. It's not insulting your intelligence like so many other bad romantic comedies, and it's much better than a lot of comedies that have come out in recent years. And I mean, I just think Hollywood right now really has no idea what direction they want to go here. It's just like they want to put movies in theaters, and yet they want to put movies on streaming so people won't go away from the streamers. You can't have it both ways here. I mean, you gotta have it one way or the other, and really, that's really what really comes down to here. But I will say that honestly, that if you had any keen interest on seeing it, if you like simple romantic comedies, go see this movie. It's definitely worth it. It's a really good movie. You'll like it for the leads. Yeah, it is very formulaic, but it is still a really good movie that I do highly recommend checking it out. So, anyway, that's my take on that. But let's go ahead now and move on to the number 3 movie this week, which, as I mentioned before, top 3 is pretty much the same as it was the last couple of weeks. But number 3 is The Drama, which brought in $8.7 million, dropping only 40% from last week, bringing its 2-week total to $30.8 million, which is not that bad for a movie that, like I said, didn't have a whole lot of marketing on TV or anything, but worldwide it's up to $42 million. It's another hit for A24. And, by the way, there was this stupid thing going on with online on social media, which I should, on Twitter, mostly on X, which I really shouldn't do that because, I mean, what they're basically doing here is so ridiculous by comparing two different movie successes to one another. Let me see if I can find it here. I got it right here. I'm pretty sure this is a bot or something like that, because there's no way you could be this stupid. But then again, this is X, so not as bad as TikTok, but pretty damn close. So this is what the tweet says. They have two posters for the drama with Zendaya and Sydney Sweeney and The Housemaid. Left, Zendaya-led movie, budget $28 million, struggling to break even. Right, Sydney Sweeney-led movie, budget $35 million. I should mention that this person didn't even spell Sydney correctly. They spelled it with an S-I-D-N-E-Y. It's S-Y-D-N-E-Y. Shatters box office predictions with $398 million box office total. I think Hollywood just got first-hand evidence of what people actually want to see. Yeah, they don't want to see you making these stupid tweets like this. I mean, and I love how somebody later on in the comments put a thing that said, Sydney Sweeney-led movie that made $28 million that was under break even. And they show the thing for Christie, which didn't even bring in $2 million is total. Which, by the way, when you account worldwide numbers for the drama, it brought in $8.7 million, 30.8 domestically. I think it said it was projected to make like $150 million, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see, what did I see that at? Just saw it before I found that tweet. Where is it? Where is it? Here it is. Is that it? No. There it is. Dramas goes to over $65 million worldwide, now eyeing $110 to $150 million finish. Cost $28 million to produce. Like, I mean, that makes no sense why you would even tweet that out there, because you're trying to what they're trying to do is, you know, try to get a rise out of people. You know, you should be smarter than that, people. I mean, I haven't seen the drama, so I don't know if it's good or not, or I don't know if there's this war between Zendaya and Sydney Sweeney that is not out there. But I'm sorry, but you're trying to create controversy from nothing. Like, honestly, like, I don't get it. I think that the drama is a hit that really is something that kind of was unexpected, because you didn't see a lot of marketing for it, and it's been doing pretty well the last 2 weeks. Held up nicely. I mean, it's done pretty well the last 2 weeks. I mean, like I said, I haven't seen it, but that really bugged me that people try to create somebody's trying to create a riff of that. Like I said, I think it's a bot that's doing that, so. But the number 2 movie, Project Hail Mary, still hanging in there, doing very, very well. I think a lot better than a lot of people expected to. $24.1 million, dropping only 24% after 4 weeks. Domestically, it's brought in $256.2 million. If you count worldwide numbers, it's at $510 million. Massive, massive hit for MGM and Amazon, who really needed something to really become a hit for them. And this one has been doing incredible business. This is closing in on. This is going to get close to Oppenheimer numbers. Oppenheimer, I think, ended up around $330 million. Yeah, it's getting that close there, people. So this one could be one of those movies that could end up being the biggest hit of the year, depending on what happens with the rest of the year in general. But let's go ahead and move on to the number 1 movie, which, not surprisingly at all, is the Super Mario Galaxy movie. Now, it did drop off much bigger than people thought it was going to. $68 million, 48.3% drop off from the previous week. But it is over $300 million domestically, $307.2 million. You count the worldwide numbers, up to $628.5 million after 2 weeks. Excuse me. Sorry, good lord. I apologize. I need to be more professional. Yeah, it's about $50 million less than the second weekend of the Super Mario Brothers movie, which had a $92 million second weekend, bringing in $353 million. So this looks like it is still going to end up being much smaller than the previous movie, but it's a massive hit. There's no other big family films coming out until The Mandalorian and Grogu comes out next month. So yeah, there's going to be a high demand for this movie, even though it is losing a lot of its audience quicker. It's still going to do very well over the next couple of weeks with no big family film competition out there. Should do very well. Should probably be the number 1 movie again this weekend before the Michael Jackson movie comes out on April 24th. because The Mummy comes out this week, and I don't know how big of a hit that's going to be. I mean, it could be a big hit. I think they're putting it in the same place that Sinners opened up last year, so I hope Warner Brothers is expecting Sinners caliber money with that, but I think it'll do decent business. I think it might have a chance to get maybe to, I don't know, maybe $15 to $20 million if the early word of mouth is good. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. But, yeah, that's the only big new release I can see for next weekend. But other than that, though, that's the weekend box office in general. So no real surprises whatsoever here. Super Mario and Hail Mary still hanging in there at the top 2 spots. Box office is doing pretty good right now. Already crossed $2 billion 3 months into the year. So it's good times right now for the box office, and surely it's going to get better as we're reaching the summer movie season pretty soon. So there you go. That's the weekend box office. So let's go ahead and get to the news stories of the week, and also we'll keep you up to date on Cinemacon. All right, it's about 9:20 right now. We're about 10 minutes away from the start of the Sony panel. I've got the page that I'm going to be updating. I've got the X page on here, so I can get you updated on some news here. So when that starts, I will let you know what's going to happen here. But let's get to some of the news stories from the last week, and we'll start off with the first big story of the week here, and that is that CBS has found its replacement for Stephen Colbert, even though they said that they were getting out of the late-night business. Yeah, that was complete and utter bullshit. We all know what's happening here, but yeah, apparently CBS is turning the late-night landscape to Byron Allen, of all people. It says here that the network will air Comics Unleashed with Byron Allen in the 11:35 time slot beginning May 22nd, followed by another Allen-produced series, the comedy game show Funny You Should Ask, at 12:35. The Late Show will sign off on May 21st. Comics Unleashed has been airing in the later spot this season, and it also aired there during the 2023 writers and actors strikes. Notably, especially for CBS's bottom line, Allen is buying time for the network to air 2 shows with his company, Allen Media Group, selling the available ad spot in the 2 hours. The change will likely see CBS turn a profit in late night. Bullshit. But, yeah. So, yeah, they're basically giving it to the blandest, inoffensive, offensive comedian out there, Byron Allen. A guy who has been trying to buy so many different companies. He's trying to be essentially the equivalent to Tyler Perry. Like, he tries so hard to be like Tyler Perry. Like, he tried to bring syndicated script sitcoms back in 2012 with a couple of really bad shows with The First Family and Mr. Box Office. And then he bought all these different companies. He bought, like, Freestyle Releasing, which went under. The Grio, which I think went under, too. The Weather Channel, which was immediately bought back by somebody else. An equity stake in Sinclair Broadcasting Group after the Fox Sports Network. You know, he also tried to buy the Denver Broncos, which didn't work out. Before it eventually got sold to the people at Walmart. Then he tried to buy BET Media Group for $3 billion. And then, lo and behold, he's at CBS basically doing a show that really isn't. It's amazing how this roller coaster for CBS late night has gone. It started so badly with the Pat Sajak show. Then they got David Letterman, and it felt like, okay, the future is looking bright. They brought in Tom Snyder. Then they brought in Craig Kilborn. Then they brought in Craig Ferguson. Then David Letterman retired, and Stephen Colbert came in. And then, once that happened, James Corden came in. That's where it started to take the downfall. There was a little bit of a glimmer of hope when Taylor Tomlinson replaced the Late Show with At Midnight. And then they got rid of that. And now this is where we're at right now. Talk about a generational bag fumble from CBS. And we all know why they're doing this. They're not doing this because they really do believe in Byron Allen as a whole. No, they're doing it because Stephen Colbert hates Trump, and CBS is owned by Trump Paramount. So, yeah, we've touched on this already. But yeah, I'm sorry. This just reeks of desperation. And if CBS really thinks they're gonna make a ton of more money with Byron Allen, like I said, is the most offensively inoffensive comedian ever. The jokes he's basically the equivalent of dad jokes, pretty much, and his stuff just isn't funny. There's nothing about him that's funny. There's nothing about him that's clever. And like I said, he's basically a watered down version of Tyler Perry. And Tyler Perry is not the greatest filmmaker as a whole, but you know, he makes more money than Byron Allen. He makes hits more than Byron Allen does. I mean, Tyler Perry knows his audience all too well, but it's just ridiculous, man. It's a really pathetic thing here. And I do like the fact that ABC and NBC have not resorted to going to the demands of the current administration to appease our president and all that. But Not CBS. No. They're gonna drain this sucker down all the way until CBS is one of those companies that becomes so bankrupt and all that they eventually have to sell to somebody else. It's gonna happen. Just watch. But yeah, like I said, I'm not a fan of this whole thing whatsoever. I think it's a shame that they're getting rid of Stephen Colbert for this. It just sucks. It really sucks for this. I mean, CBS. I mean, I'm ashamed of you, man. I really am ashamed of you, and I can't wait to see how you're gonna fuck the season up here with the schedule coming up this week for the fall season. That's gonna probably be something that's so a representation of what CBS thinks people want to see now under this current regime that they're under. But anyway, I'm just rambling on right now. So let's go ahead and move on to the next story here. And that is that Glen Powell's next movie has officially been revealed. And it's a new film from director Judd Apatow. Come to think of it, I don't know if we actually covered this on the Reviewing Network Live. It's back when this was first announced. I want to say we did, but if you don't remember, there was news that last year that Judd Apatow and Glen Powell were working on a new movie, and now the details on that have been officially revealed. As it says here on Deadline Hollywood, Universal has taken to social media to unveil that its comedy movie directed by Judd Apatow and starring Glen Powell will be titled The Comeback King. The movie follows Powell as a country western star on the demise. Pick is scheduled to open in theaters on February 5th, 2027. Powell and Apatow co-wrote the screenplay. And I got a pop-up here, so hold on. A pop-up wouldn't go away for some reason. Kristen Milotti, Madeline Klein, Stavros Halkias, and Lin Ji Hao also star. Apatow produced for Apatow Productions, while Powell and Dan Cohen produced for Barnstorm through their first look deal at Universal. Former Universal president of production Kevin Misher is producing under his Misher film banner. EPs are Barry Mendel and Josh Church. So that's all we pretty much know about this movie in general. But Glen Powell is somebody that I've talked about many times here on this channel and also on the main channel as well. I really like him. He makes a lot of film choices that are not the greatest overall, but he is usually never the problems with those movies. The films themselves are usually the biggest problems with those films. And for Judd Apatow, this is something that I'm really looking forward to seeing, that hopefully he finds his mojo again, because he's really not been the same for much of the decade, honestly. I mean, the first movie that came out this decade was the Pete Davidson movie, The King of Staten Island, which wasn't bad, but it wasn't great either. Then he followed it up with The Bubble, which was a gigantic misfire. Which, I mean, that was a movie that tried way too hard for Judd Apatow to go big or go home, and that one failed miserably. I mean, it came out on April Fool's Day, so many people probably looked at it and go like, "No, really, dude, is this a joke?" So hopefully, I hope this is a film that gets him back on track. He hasn't made a good movie since Trainwreck, and I covered that recently on Time About the Movies. That was 12 years. That's going to be 12 years ago from the time this movie comes out. So I hope I hope he finds his way back as a director. I hope, but we'll see what happens. We'll find out more. Probably we'll learn about more when Universal has their Cinemacon presentation, which I think is on Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken. Either Wednesday or Thursday is Paramount. Tomorrow is Warner Brothers, so I think it is Wednesday after DreamWorks, because DreamWorks is showing Forgotten Island Cinemacon this weekend, which is a movie I've been looking forward to seeing. I saw the trailer for it a couple weeks ago. Very excited to see that, so there you go. Not much more to say about that one. The Comeback King with Glen Powell. Let's hope it's a comeback for Judd Apatow, too. So let's go ahead and move on to this next story here, and that is, it's an odd story because we talked about the Basic Instinct reboot when it was first announced this past summer, and there hasn't been a whole lot of talk since then. But then Joe Eszterhas basically made the news come out there that the director of Wuthering Heights, Emerald Fennell, was involved in the production of this movie. And then Emerald Fennell herself had to come out and basically say that that is not true. So why would Joe Eszterhas even say that? But I've got the story here from Variety. Director Emerald Fennell won't be dusting off the ice pick. The promising young woman and Saltburn filmmaker loves to push the envelope, and screenwriter Joe Eszterhas insisted that her attraction for transgressive storytelling was leading her to Basic Instinct 3. Is this a sequel that nobody was asking for, or is this a remake? This confused me, but anyway. But a representative for the filmmaker commented that there's no truth in this, she's not involved in any way. Eszterhas, who gave the world Catherine Trammell in 1992's Basic Instinct, as well as Jennifer Beals' Steel Worker and Dancer in 1990. Whoever wrote this needs to redo this, man, because it says 1994's Flashdance. Flashdance came out in 1984. claimed in a new interview with The Guardian that Fennell was in talks to board the project. Eszterhas announced last year that he was writing a Basic Instinct reboot. The producers are negotiating with a really interesting director, a Brit, Emerald Fennell, who did Promising Young Woman and Wuthering Heights, Eszterhas told the paper. Her sensibility is exactly right. She's someone who is not afraid of controversy and sexuality, so I'm thrilled by that. I hope it works out. Perhaps Eszterhas had his Brits confused. Amazon MGM reportedly shelled out $4 million for Eszterhas' script, and a spokesperson for the studio denied that claim that Fennell is in negotiations to direct, calling it categorically false. Earlier, Eszterhas, who earned a reputation as the king of bard of smut with 90s films like Showgirls and Sliver, said that his reboot of Basic Instinct would be anti-woke. Which, that right there should be the first red flag of this whole thing. The fact that you gotta call it anti-woke. Like, stop saying that because you don't know what that word means. Just in case people need a meaning of what the word woke means. And I've done this several times, but I feel like I have to keep doing this to you people, but woke. The meaning of it is that it's aware or actively attentive to important societal facts and issues, especially issues of racial and social injustice. There. So, that's mistake number one. Mistake number two, why is Joe Eszterhas acting like this is his big comeback? Like, this is the movie that everyone is waiting for. Like, this is my chance to get back on track. And it's just like, dude, you haven't made anything of noteworthiness in 20 years. Get over yourself. 30 years, because the last thing he did was notable was in the 1990s. 3, why are you going to get Emerald Fennell, who made one of the most unsexy, uninteresting movies recently with Wuthering Heights, to make this movie? Wuthering Heights is fucking terrible. It's a boring-ass movie. It's empty. There's nothing about it that works except for the visuals, but the visuals don't make the movie. If you're gonna do Basic Instinct for a new generation, get Luca Guadagnino to do it. Luca Guadagnino has had much more success than Emerald Fennell has, and he's somebody that brings people to the seats. I mean, look at what happened with Challengers. Look what happened with Call Me By Your Name. I mean, this person is a good director. Like, I would entrust Luca Guadagnino more than Emerald Fennell with a Basic Instinct reboot, but I mean, I don't really see this flying at all. I don't think this thing is going to do very well whatsoever. So yeah, I don't think it's going to be a success. I don't think this might be one of those things where they keep talking about it to the point where they have so many problems behind the scenes that nobody's ever going to want to do this at this point. So yeah, I'm not really convinced that Emerald Fennell would be a great choice for the remake of Basic Instinct or Basic Instinct 3, whatever the hell Eszterhas is doing at this point here. So let's go ahead and get an update from Marvel Studios on their X-Men movie, because we did get an update. And that is that the reboot of X-Men seems to be moving forward as they have hired screenwriters to put this film together. This comes from Deadline Hollywood, and it says Jake Schriber is working on the X-Men film reboot and has revealed that Beef creator Lee Sung-jin and the Bear showrunner Joanna Callow are working on a script for the Marvel movie. In a new interview, the Thunderbolts director said that the X-Men movie was still in the developing stages, telling Collider, Lee Sung-jin and Joanna Callow have come in and are working on a draft right now, which is really exciting to be able to put that group of people together again. Shire has worked with Sung-jin and Callow on Beef. They both wrote for Thunderbolts, and the X-Men reboot would reunite the trio in another Marvel film, which is expected to be released sometime after Avengers Secret Wars. So they're bringing a lot of people back from, like I said, Beef and the Bear, and it seems like they're moving really, really close to getting this thing all together here. The most interesting thing I'm looking at when I'm looking at this movie is, when are we going to get to hear some new information about it? Will we hear it this week when Disney takes the stage at Cinemacon, or are they going to wait until, maybe not even a Comic-Con in July? They might wait until D23 to reveal the full details on this movie, because that's what happened 2 years ago when they were at D23, so I really do think we're going to learn some information about X-Men probably around August. Probably X-Men will be the first movie, if not the first movie, the second movie that comes out after Avengers Secret Wars. Probably Black Panther 3 will come after that, and then after that it'll probably be X-Men. That's just my thinking behind it right now, but it's moving along right now, so not much more to say about that one. Just a quick story there. So on to our next story. By the way, the Sony Pictures panel is happening right now. I've got the page up here ready to refresh to see if anything drops. Just got started about 6 minutes ago, so they're probably not going to start anything right away. It's probably going to be a little bit. But speaking of Sony, they are making news this past week with the news of a sequel to a movie that probably is that Ordinarily, I'd be like, really, we're doing this? But to be fair, Troop Beverly Hills really is not a good movie, so maybe, as I've always said, if you're going to remake any movie, remake the bad ones. And Troop Beverly Hills is one of those ones that definitely is a film that could be remade into something for modern generation and probably work, but this isn't a remake, though. This is a sequel. Hollywood Reporter is saying right here that Cameron Diaz is heading to camp with a planned sequel to Troop Beverly Hills. Clea Duvall of Happiest Season is set to write and direct the feature that is in the works for TriStar Pictures and serves as the follow-up to the original 1989 comedy that starred Shelley Long. Diaz is developing the project as a possible star vehicle. Plot details are currently under wraps, with Lawrence Mark, the Greatest Showman, serving as a producer alongside Diaz and the star's business partner, Catherine Power. Troop Beverly Hills centered on Phyllis Neffler, played by Shelley Long, a Beverly Hills socialite going through a divorce who decides to lead a troop of scouts. Craig T. Nelson, Betty Thomas, Mary Gross, Stephanie Beacham, Carla Gugino, and Jenny Lewis rounded out the cast for the film that collected $8.5 million at the box office, $22 million adjusted for inflation. It has since developed a cult following. Ava Fries has a story credit on the original movie that is inspired by her real-life experiences while running her daughter's Girl Scout troop. Pamela Norris and Margaret Oberman wrote the script for director Jeff Kanu's movie that Sony Pictures released in 1989. Diaz has previously starred in Sony's projects since the Charlie's Angels franchise, The Holiday, and Bad Teacher. Duvall wrote and directed TriStar's holiday comedy Happiest Season that premiered on Hulu in 2020. Duvall is also known for acting in such films as The Grudge and Argo, and will also appear in the forthcoming season of The Last of Us. So, yeah, this is a very... I'm very conflicted on this one here, because like I said, this movie overall, the original Troop Beverly Hills, is not a great movie. It's a pretty forgettable film when you really think about it. The only thing that really stood out about that movie to me was the fact that it had a great animated opening done by John Kay, who apparently did a lot of those animated openings back in the day before he became well known with Ren and Stimpy. But that intro alone is probably the most memorable thing about that movie. Not to mention the Beach Boys song, "Make It Big, Big," that song. You know what song I'm talking about. But other than that, though, the movie itself is pretty forgettable. It's not really all that funny, and I didn't really think it was something that really needed to be remade, made as a sequel. But they could probably do something new with it. And like I said, if you're gonna make a sequel to something, remake the bad movies. Make the first movie make us forget how lame the first movie was, and do something new with it for a second film. But yeah, that's all I got to say about that one. Nothing really spectacular about that one, but if you want to talk about a comedy sequel that is completely unnecessary, Ride Along 3 is happening 10 years after the last movie. Because clearly there was a demand for that movie, said no one ever. Yeah, we just talked about Ride Along 2 today on Time About the Movies, and not a fan. Not a fan of that movie at all, but they are apparently doing a Ride Along 3, according to Deadline Hollywood. We're hearing that Ride Along 3 is in early development at Universal. It stars Ice Cube and Kevin Hart, director Tim Story, and producer Will Packer, all in early discussions to return. The news comes at a time when Universal had closed a deal with scribe Daniel Gold, Tough Guys, to pen the screenplay. While Cube, Hart, Story, and Packer always wanted to do a third movie, they were often not in unison on ideas that have been floated over the years. Gold's pitch, which is under wraps, got the foursome excited and on the same page. No doubt the big screen requires more comedies, and as the revived Bad Boys 3-quel and 4-quel have proved, beloved franchise action comedies are particularly solid box office bets. Nostalgia will no doubt be in 3-quel's favor, given that it's been 10 years since Ride Along 2. But Ride Along 2 was not a good movie. People didn't want to see another Ride Along after that movie. What part of this do studios not understand? It's just like they make a big deal about Yumi and Tuscany not making any money, but because you're not fucking selling the movie to people, and yet you're more than willing to spend hundreds of millions of dollars for a comedy sequel that nobody's asking for. It makes no sense. It makes no sense whatsoever. And I like the first Ride Along movie, but the second one is just a been there, done that movie, and I really don't think they have an idea for the third film. I think their idea is that, do you see how much money we're making off of these sequels that nobody's asking for? We gotta do it with our movies. It's like, instead of doing something original, instead of doing something that actually is worth your time, why are you gonna spend it on Ride Along 3? Like, honestly, it makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. So, again, not much more to say about that one, except that we're doing this, so yay, I guess. But anyway, let's go ahead and move on to our next story. update. The Sony panel is underway right now. We're about 4 minutes in, it looks like, so we're going to find out in a little bit here. We should be getting some news pretty soon, but I bring Sony up again because they are part of our next story here, and that is the fact that they have bought the rights to make the Metal Gear Solid movie. I don't know what was going on with my mouth there for a second, but this is from the Hollywood Reporter. What a difference a Hollywood year can make. Just a year ago, Zach Sapofsky and Adam B. Stein were a filmmaking duo with humble indie horror roots, preparing to release their first sizable feature, Final Destination Bloodlines, from New Line Cinema. Now, thanks to that movie's critical and box office success, Sapofsky and Stein, who first met 17 years ago as competitors on Steven Spielberg's filmmaking reality show On the Lot, have become one of the busiest movie makers around. They are so in demand that Sony Pictures has snared them, signing the deal to a sweeping and expansive first-look deal which covers all the studio's film labels. Under the deal, Sapofsky and Stein's newly launched company, Wonder Lab, will develop films for the duo to direct in original projects that they will produce for other directors. The focus is creating wildly fun, commercial, character-driven, genre-bending films. They are currently meeting potential executives to help lead the company. And as part of that deal, the duo will direct Sony's Columbia Pictures adaptation of Metal Gear Solid, the pioneering video game created by Hideo Kojima. It will mark the first time the blockbuster title, a stealth combat game with sci-fi and spy features, would be brought to the screen. Father and son team Avi and Aria Rod are producing the feature. So yeah, Metal Gear Solid is a movie. It's something I'm actually kind of surprised that they haven't done a movie for yet. I mean, they've probably been trying to get one made for years now, but I mean, now's probably the perfect time to do it. Video game movies have never been hotter right now. Minecraft, Mario, Pokemon, the Angry Birds, Sonic the Hedgehog movies. I mean, there is a high demand for these movies, and you know, Sony Pictures even has their own company with PlayStation Productions, which have not made a lot of great movies, but they made a lot of great TV shows, Twisted Metal and The Last of Us. So, yeah, why not do a Metal Gear Solid movie now? I'd be really curious to see what they do with it, especially with Zach Sapofsky and Adam Stein, who made one of the more fun movies from last year with Final Destination Bloodlines. So, yeah, I would say yes, do it. I think it's something that should be seen, and should be really excited to see with that fun overall. So, still waiting on stuff from Cinemacon, nothing yet, so back to the stories. Man, a few people were upset about the long wait between the Oscar nominations and the actual ceremonies. Got some bad news for you, because they're going to keep doing this for the next two shows. This week, the Oscars announced that they will be holding the Academy Awards staying in mid-March for the next 2 years. The 2027 Oscars, which will be the 99th edition of the ceremony, will take place on Sunday, March 14th, and then the 2028 Oscars, marking the ceremony's centennial, will be held on Sunday, March 5th. Both shows will begin at 7 p.m. Eastern at 4 p.m. Pacific. As was previously announced, these will be the final Oscars ceremonies held at the Dolby Theater in Hollywood and broadcast on ABC. In 2029, the Oscars will move to downtown LA's Los Angeles' LA Live Complex and will begin streaming on YouTube. The dates of the Oscars have fluctuated significantly in recent years, ranging from February 9th, 2020, moved to combat awards fatigue, to April 21st, 2021, moving back due to the pandemic, with the Academy and ABC trying to avoid direct conflicts with the NFL playoffs, the Olympics, and other major events. So it's going to be a good way to start the year off for 2027 over at ABC, because they've got the Grammy Awards coming on there for the first time ever. They've got the Super Bowl, their first one in 21 years, I think. 2006 was the last one they did. And then they got the Academy Awards, and they'll at least have the Oscars and the Grammys for the next 2 years. And then Oscars goes off to YouTube, and see what happens with that. But, yeah. So like I said, whether or not you guys like the fact that the Oscars are taking way too long to get there, you have to wait a little bit longer, unfortunately. So, still no word whether or not if Conan O'Brien will be back to host those two shows. I really think he should, but, alright, nothing more to say about that one, so let's go ahead and move on to our next story that we got here. Paramount, of course, making a lot of news with the Warner Brothers merger possibly coming soon, but a lot of Hollywood celebrities are basically saying, no, we're not going to do that. There's like a whole, I think they said over 1,000 stars and directors and people behind the scenes in Hollywood is basically called out Paramount for the Warner Brothers merger plans. But that's not the biggest story from the last week or so. The biggest story that is a big story, but what came before that was something that was expected to happen, and that is that Jeff Shell is out at Paramount after 8 months on the job. This comes from the Hollywood Report, from Deadline Hollywood. I'm sorry. For the second time in 3 years, Jeff Shell has been ousted from a top corporate perch. Back in April of 2023, the exec lost his job at NBC Universal CEO amidst allegations of inappropriate conduct with a female CNBC reporter. Today, after weeks of claims about indiscretion and a multi-million-dollar legal back and forth, Schell is out as the president of Paramount Skydance. Schell will be resigning his seat off the Paramount board's ASAP too. How the fallout for Schell will play out is to be determined, though. Don't be surprised if the parachute is less than the usual production deal or advisory role. Framed to help Schell save face, I hear there is a big stink on the 60-year-old exec from the messy way things went down. Neither reps for Schell nor Paramount responded to requests for comment from Deadline on the move. The long-anticipated pink slipping comes as a report from law firm Gibson Dunn appears to have cleared Schell of claims by an attention-seeking so-called pro-gambler that the executive shared confidential and potentially explosive information. The initial $150 million breach of contract and fraud complaint from Robert James Cipriani against Schell and his wife, which had grown to include Paramount itself, CEO David Ellison, his Oracle founding father Larry Ellison, and a swath of advisors, accused the now executive Paramount president of gossiping about deals surrounding UFC, WBD, and more recently, Donald Trump. Here's where I think it's interesting here, because I think this is the reason why he got fired, which shows you more about the scumbaggery that is going on at Paramount. We're paying too much for Warner Brothers, Schell is said to have told Cipriani on the eventual $111 billion bid to acquire the iconic company, topping Netflix's $89 billion bid for Warner Brothers studio and streaming assets. If we could just wait a year, we could get it a whole lot cheaper. Cipriani, who had already submitted a whistleblowing filing for the CEO over Schell and the $7.7 billion UFC deal, declares that additional details and more WBD tidbits were unveiled at the Paramount executive in a February 2nd face-to-face meeting at the office of a prominent Los Angeles entertainment law firm, Clearly, a.k.a. Glazerwell. So, I really don't think that this guy got fired because of these indiscretions about, things that he did behind the scenes and all that. I think he got fired because he was trying to just do his damn job, trying to stop the company from making a big mistake and spending all this money on a deal that's going to destroy Hollywood. And, of course, with Trump Paramount working like it is, that backfired on him big time, and I really do think this is the reason why he's getting canned right now. But to be fired 8 months into your tenure, I mean, you can make the argument that Paramount has not had a good second half of 2025 since they were bought by Skydance. They've had a lot of movies that were not big hits. The Running Man was not a big hit. Neither was Roofman. Primate was a decent hit overall. Scream 7 was a decent hit. But with that said, though, again, the scumbaggery of these Paramount executives is coming out in full force, but nobody is stopping them from doing anything. It's really getting predictable with them. It's just they keep doing the same damn thing over and over again, and there's nobody there to say, hey, I see what you're doing, I'm going to stop you from doing this. And it seems like that's what this Jeff Schell guy was doing, but of course nothing has come out of that, unfortunately. But yeah, so yeah, I got nothing else for you. I thought I had something else for you, but my brain just stopped for a second. I mean, but yeah, this is just another major flaw with Paramount's acquisition of Warner Brothers here that has continued into today. As I mentioned before, there's a lot of major Hollywood figures that are coming in here, people that are working with Warner Brothers right now, like J.J. Abrams, Damon Lindelof, David Fincher, Denis Villeneuve. There were some other names on there: Adam McKay, Ben Stiller, Bryan Cranston, Catherine Keener, David Chase, Emma Thompson, Don Cheadle, Jane Fonda, Jason Bateman, Lin-Manuel Miranda, Tiffany Haddish, Noah Weil, Mark Duplass, Joaquin Phoenix, Lily Gladstone. Over 1,000 people have come out against the Warner Brothers merger. And how does the head of Paramount respond to it? Just be a scumbag. Yeah, that's basically all he has left to him. This is what he had to say. This transaction uniquely brings together complementary strengths to create a company that can greenlit more projects, back bold ideas, support talent across multiple stages of their careers, and bring stories to audience on a truly global scale, while strengthening competition by earning multiple skilled players are invested in creative talents. We've been clear in our commitments to do just that, increasing output to a minimum of 30 high-quality feature films annually, with full theatrical releases, continuing to license content, and preserving iconic brands with independently created viewership, ensuring creators have more avenues to work for their work, not fewer. And I'm sorry, the whole idea of the 30 films a year thing, I mean, it just makes no sense. It makes no sense why they keep pushing that whole thing. It's just 30 films sounds good on paper, but then when you have to, is when you keep having to promote, is you're going to have 30 films released over the course of 12 months a year. Like, it's just, I mean, it's this whole thing all over again. It's just like, I've talked about this enough. It's a bad idea. I'm hoping that the word is going to keep getting out there to prevent this from happening, but I don't think it's going to stop them. I think they're going to still find a way to get this deal done and basically ruin Hollywood as it is right now. So, anyway, I need to take a break here. So we'll head to our last story here, and then hopefully we'll get some updates from Cinemacon in just a little bit. We have our first Cinemacon update, which really doesn't mean a whole lot. This was not a shocker that Dwayne Johnson, Kevin Hart, and Jack Black are backstage at the Sony panel. Of course, they're going to talk about the new Jumanji movie coming out for Christmas, and of course Zach Krager's there to talk about Resident Evil, which comes out in September. They're probably going to show some previews there. I don't know if any of them are going to drop online. I'd be very excited to see if we can get some of that out there, but I don't think it's going to happen, but we'll see. Like I said, we're about 30 minutes into the panel right now. Nothing has been severely updated yet, except the fact that the guys from Jumanji and Resident Evil are there. So there was one last thing I want to cover here, and that is what happened. Once again, we're heading back into the world of sports because of something that happened during the Orlando Storm versus the Louisville Kings game on a Friday night. So it was a close game all across the board. It was tied at 27. They went to overtime, and then they did sudden death overtime. And I'm getting the game set up here. Excuse me. So at the end of the game, it was tied at 27, and they had this thing that happened during. Of course, the UFL has all these different rules and all that, and it was the Orlando Storm and the Louisville Kings, and the Storm were going into sudden death overtime. They were essentially sudden death overtime. If you get a 2-point conversion, you win the game. I've got the story here from NBC's Pro Football Talk, which says right here, the United Football League is struggling to get much attention this spring, but an unusual ruling on the final play of Friday night's game has football fans talking. The game was awarded to the Orlando Storm 29-27 over the Louisville Knights when Louisville committed a penalty on Orlando's overtime 2-point conversion attempt. In the NFL, a penalty on the defense on a 2-point conversion attempt would result in the ball being moved half the distance to the goal line and another attempt being granted. But UFL overtime has different rules. Orlando and Louisville were tied 27-27 at the end of the fourth quarter, sending the game into overtime. In UFL overtime, teams take turns trying 2-point conversions to determine a winner. Neither team scored, but Louisville committed 2 defensive penalties, and under UFL rules, the second defensive penalty is considered a successful 2-point conversion attempt. That gave Orlando the 29-27 score. Which, I'm sorry, but that's a bad rule. That is a terrible rule, and the UFL is designed for all these other organizations, the NFL, college football, to watch what's going on here and think, is this something that we want to imply for the future here? And I'm sorry, that is a terrible rule. Like, if they do a second penalty, yeah, you move them closer to the goal line. You don't just give them the 2-point conversion. That makes no sense. That makes absolutely no sense to do that. And I've got the footage right here from the end of the game. So let's go ahead and take a listen to this. Okay, so I did find the first of these defensive penalties. This was actually during the overtime shootout. It was the last one too, but the way they do it is that you get to they put the ball at the 5-yard line, and if you get into the end zone, you get the 2-point conversion. Essentially, you win the game on that front. Louisville missed on all 3 of them. This is Orlando going for the last of their attempts. This is the first penalty.
Plummer, fade route, incomplete.
So they just do a flag for pass interference on the Louisville defender Gardner. And yeah, you could definitely see the pass interference because he threw him to the ground right in the area where he would have caught the ball at. So that makes sense. That makes sense to give him a penalty on that front. And then, they move half the distance to the goal, I think it is.
There's a flag down in the end zone. Connor Fox, the tight end, was the intended receiver.
Garner has this look on his face like, what did I do? Placed at the 1-yard line. So, okay, so they get another shot at it. They try to put it in. It didn't go through. So now we're heading into sudden death overtime. And I'm going to stop right here where Louisville's at. But let's go to Orlando. This is the second penalty, and this is the thing that caused them to lose the game right here.
Looking Flag drawn.
Now that time it looked like the Orlando offensive player had no shot of getting that ball, and they threw the flag. Like, that one I will disagree with him on. That was not a penalty at all.
Badger was the intended receiver, and getting there early, it was a defender for Louisville. Let's see what they called it on.
Yeah, he had to have restricted him.
This is their second live ball foul, so the score is good. By rule, the score is good.
So that's Steve Blandino, who's like the head of the officiating for the UFL, saying that because it was the second penalty on the defense, they automatically get the 2 points. Which, I'm sorry, that's a bad rule. It's a bad rule because it's unfair to the other team. Like, what are they supposed to do in that situation? What if there's a situation where they have no choice but to cause the penalty? Like, it makes no sense to do that. It's a terrible rule. It's a terrible rule.
This is the second live ball foul. Louisville's the first series. Louisville had the first one. Louisville had passed the fence on the previous try. This is their second live ball foul. By rule, the try is good. Even though it's not in the same period. Even though it's not in the same period, it's the entire overtime. Okay.
So even though it's not in the same period, it's still overtime. So basically, if you're the defense and you fuck up twice, you just lost your team the game. That's the rule that they have here. And I'm sorry, that is a bad rule. And it's a bad rule because of of what I said before. You got people from the National Football League, college football, all these places that play football and all that. Like, you got them watching this. They're watching this to see if there's the stuff that they can use in this game to change it, to make the game better for them. And I'm sorry, like, can you imagine if an NFL game or a college football game ended this way? Can you imagine the anger, the pissed off people that would be, that the fact that your team lost the game trying to do what they're supposed to do, and like they cost it all because they had 2 penalties in overtime? Like, imagine if the Super Bowl ended that way. Like, it's a bad rule. It's a terrible rule, and I hope that this is something that the NFL and college football decide not to do, because I can just imagine the rules of the game's getting much worse. And with that right there, I mean, I'm sorry, that's a terrible rule. It's a bad rule. I wish the UFL would get rid of it, but you know they're not going to do that.
So, holding defense number 1.
Number 12. Number 12.
By rule, the score counts. The game is over.
Correct.
Yeah, there was a little bit of a pull there, but he would have never caught that ball. Hey, there's a holding ball.
Defense number 12. Because this was the second defensive foul by Louisville during the overtime period, the try is good. Orlando wins, and the game is over.
A crazy finish. Corey Mayfield.
Yeah, crazy is one way to say it, Kurt Menefee. I would say fucking stupid. And it was a holding call, not a pass interference call. So, yeah, I was wrong on that one. But still, like, this was in Louisville too, and they were 0-2, and now they've got 0-3 because of that stupid rule. I'm sorry, you can't convince me otherwise that that's not a stupid rule. I hope they get rid of it. I hope that this is something that this is a learning lesson for them. But I'm sorry, that's a terrible rule. That is an absolutely horrible rule that they need to get rid of and keep it from not getting into professional leagues like the NFL or college football. Because I tell you what, once that happens, all hell's going to break loose on that front there. And you're going to have a lot of pissed off people in the NFL, in the NCAA, and college football in general. Just, it's a bad rule. It's a bad, bad rule. So anyway, not much more to say about that. So I just wanted to bring that up because that really did baffle me when I saw that for the first time on Friday night. But, excuse me. In terms of an update from the Sony Cinemacon, nothing new to show except for that the logo for Zach Cregger's Resident Evil is up on discussing on the online. It's just the logo for Resident Evil with a picture of Zach Cregger there. So, other than that, though, nothing to report just yet. We'll see if we can get one more update for you before we get on out of here. When we get back, we'll talk about some recommendations. All right, so it's about 10:30 right now, and right now the team behind Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse are backstage. I think they might be on right now. They did tease something big tonight, so we'll wait to see what happens there. But also Jeff Snyder on the Insider basically has said that there's a hot rumor saying that he got a text from a good source saying Sony's Tom Rothman may be about to announce a new Quentin Tarantino movie. We'll know in the next 90 minutes, so stand by, folks. And that was posted at 9:58, so we'll find out pretty soon if that is actually true or not. I'll keep you posted. Be back in a moment. Okay, it was not Beyond the Spider-Verse. It was actually Spider-Man Brand New Day first, but they did play a clip here, and I've got the description here from somebody I'm following on this, Brandon Davis. So it says mild spoilers for the movie in this clip. So he's talking about the clip right here. It says Peter Parker sitting in a cafe and watching Ned walk in and out without noticing him. The clip cuts to night. Ned is rolling up to a party with supplies, and Peter follows him in. Inside, Peter navigates the party with a red cup. He sips it and doesn't care for the drink inside. Moving through and away from the crowd, he finds the Chewbacca minifigures and reminiscent of his time with Ned. He has flowers in his hands, but is distracted by a series of photos of Spider-Man on a corkboard. Ned comes out of the bathroom. He actually saved me and my friends' lives one time in high school. He wants to find out who Spider-Man is, not to expose him, but to thank him. Peter plays dumb and acts surprised to learn Ned invented Spidey Tracker. He had married Spidey down to two prime suspects, showing a photo of Flash Thompson and their teacher with the glasses, Mr. Harrington, from previous movies. It gets a laugh in the theater and a grin from Peter. MJ walks in, a piano starts to play. She introduces herself, and Peter calls himself Maynard, just a neighbor from across the hall. She calls him a friendly neighbor, and almost spits the drink out. So it's basically the scene from the trailer. In another room, MJ tells Ned she was offered a job, but she turned it down and doesn't want to work for Soulless Corporation. She feels that like she is supposed to be waiting for something, and they toast to that. A guy walks up after a short hello and intimately kissing MJ. Piano comes back in as Peter sees it and shuts down. It's time to leave the party. So it kind of sounds like the end. It's kind of sounding like the ending of Last American Virgin here, but fades to black and a sizzle reel plays. It only has footage from the previous trailer until Spider-Man gets damage control agents to hold on as he limbers up and stretches to fight them, ultimately webbing one to the fence. So yeah, a little bit of a spoiler right there, a little bit of a mild spoiler there for Spider-Man Brand New Day, but and I've seen the updates here. It looks like they're heading into the Insidious trailer next, so that might be coming up online soon. If not today, then tomorrow. If not tonight, then tomorrow for sure. But that's what it says right here on Brandon Davis's page here. So I'll keep you up to date. Okay, so the trailer actually just showed up online. I was watching the trailer for Insidious out of further. I gotta say, man, that trailer got me. There were a couple of shots in that trailer that scared the living bejesus out of me, like the beginning with her in the dentist's office with the old man and the teeth and all that. And it looks like they're throwing a little bit of smile in there with everyone smiling evilly at this girl. And then the couch scene at the end was like real. That's really good. I actually got a good laugh too when this woman in the middle of the car just shows up with a shotgun, and she's giving that smile too. It's just like it's a good trailer, man. It's a really, really good trailer. I didn't like the last movie they did in the Insidious series, The Red Door. I thought that was not as good as some of the other movies, but this one looks pretty promising. I can't wait to check that one out. It comes out in August, so yeah, it's out there online right now, but they showed that off there, and it looks like right now they're doing the Resident Evil footage, so are we going to get a Resident Evil trailer? Probably not, but stick around. I'll find out in just a little bit. Okay, now we're finally starting to get something here. First off, I forgot that Taika Waititi's new movie is coming out from Sony, and that's Clara and the Sun, starring Jenna Ortega in an adaptation of the 2021 novel the same name. Looks really interesting. It follows an artificial friend thrown into a mystery and threatened with being returned if she doesn't learn and behave. Vibrant look, turns dark too. And it has a cast that includes Amy Adams, Simon Baker, Natasha Lyonne, Steve Buscemi. I like Taika Waititi. I like his last couple of movies. I like Next Go Win, so I'm very excited to see that. We have a couple of news stories we have a couple of things that broke out from here. Grand Gear, directed by Takashi Yamazaki, produced by J.J. Abrams, will hit theaters February 18th, 2028. Early glimpses, film hasn't started yet, looks epic. Robots fighting in chopped up pre-viz shots, looks dope. So it sounds like kind of a new Pacific Rim. And it says Bloodborne is being adapted into a movie. I guess they're doing this right before the Legend of Zelda panel that's coming up, because that one's coming out next summer. Here it is. Bloodborne is going to be an animated movie. Ooh! Here's something that's interesting. Jacksepticeye is producing the movie, and it will be R-rated. So those fears that, Markiplier's success with Iron Lung and Chris Stuckman with Shelby Oaks about how the YouTube community is coming in to take over Hollywood, everyone's going to be afraid about what they do. Evidently, that's not the case with Sony. They're saying, hey, Jacksepticeye, you come in and produce this movie for us. So that is exciting stuff to see with that. And it also says here, Helldivers will be an explosive, large-scale adaptation of the game starring Jason Momoa in theaters on November 10th, 2027. So they are announcing some news. I guess it's in between the panels in general, because it says Legend of Zelda is next, and then following that, Brandon Davis has like 3 different tweets about things coming up here. But that Bloodborne movie, I don't know much about Bloodborne overall, but I do love Jacksepticeye. I think his videos are funny, and considering how Markiplier and Chris Stuckman have been doing so far with YouTubers making the jump to the movies, I'm very excited to see what he does with that. So that's very, very intriguing that they're getting him to do that film. That's very interesting to see. Let's see if we have an update here. Nothing yet, but I'll keep you posted. Alright, some more details on Helldivers. Justin Lin is directing the movie, taking the stage to say he's been looking for something character-driven with themes that connect all of us. He found those things in Helldivers. A joke? ? He said Jason Momoa was the only person who could help bring it to life. Lin also said he talked to people who love Helldivers and want to unlock an understanding to celebrate their passion while also introducing it to a new audience. He's heading to New Zealand to start working on the movie. So that's the latest on Helldivers. They just added another tweet on here afterwards. So we're slowly but surely starting to get some Sony news out there, and I think everyone's waiting to see the big bomb that's going to drop. What's going to be the big thing that Sony is going to talk about in this? Well, we're going to find out pretty soon. It's about 11 o'clock right now, so we'll wait to see what happens. Alright, so now it looks like the Social Network sequel is up there, The Social Reckoning. And it says here, the Social Network sequel is coming, but it's described as a companion movie. Aaron Sorkin has written and directed it. It is titled The Social Reckoning, a thriller based on true events. Sorkin gets on stage to talk about how Facebook has exploded since the social network. It's time to say more, he said. It's a real David and Goliath story. The story follows a mid-level engineer in Facebook who becomes a whistleblower to take on the company. Not my words, that's how Brandon typed it on a X. He introduced footage. It shows Mikey Madsen's character process to Jeremy Allen White's that she does not want to hurt Facebook, but wants to help him. Jeremy Strong looks a lot like Mark Zuckerberg in a mock interrogation preparing him for a trial, staunchly defending his actions. It looks pretty fiery and engaging and intense. It also uses the same piano strokes from the Social Network movie. Okay, so, with this one, I really love the Social Network, and I was really having some trepidations about them doing kind of a sequel to this, but hey, I love Aaron Sorkin. He's directing this movie as well, so I'm definitely looking forward to it. It's got a great cast that includes, like they said, Mikey Madsen, Jeremy Allen White. There was somebody else, I can't remember who else was in it. Let me check here real quick. Jeremy Strong? Yeah, Jeremy Strong. Bill Burr, Wani Mosaku, Billy Magnuson, Betty Gilpin. Good cast overall, so hopefully we'll get some footage pretty soon. I think they'll probably wait for the trailer to drop later on in the summertime maybe for that one, but sounds promising from what they're showing here. And new tweet, Sony Pictures Animation shows an image from Buds, which sees a human hand fist-binding a plant. It follows a timid outdoor plant which breaks the sacred rule of the plant world, which is never talk to humans. It does so to save its best friend, and it shakes up the plant kingdom. Okay, so we've seen this kind of premise done before in many other animated movies, but hey, it's Sony Pictures Animation. Who would have guessed that a movie like Goat would be as great as it was? Goat looked pretty cool from the trailers, but you always had that thought that it looks cool, but then again, this is also the same company that made the Emoji Movie, but nevertheless, I think they have more than gone well past the Emoji Movie. It's coming up on 10 years now for that, but oh god, I wonder if they can you imagine if they announced an Emoji Movie 10th anniversary re-release in theaters? You think people would go and see it? I certainly wouldn't, but hey, they're doing the 10th anniversary re-release of the Angry Birds movie, but that movie's awesome. That Emoji Movie, not so much. So anyway, I'll keep you up to date. Alright, now it's Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse time. It says here, Phil Lord, Chris Miller, Bob Persichetti, and Justin K. Thompson are in stage. First look coming up. Okay, so this one says, Project Hail Mary built its sets next to Sony Animation so that Lord and Miller could stay close to the Spider-Verse work. So that's kind of interesting. That's kind of interesting to hear that. Nothing related to the Spider-Verse movie, but I think that's kind of interesting that they built the sets for Project Hail Mary next to Sony so they can maybe go back and forth between those movies here. I thought that was kind of intriguing here. I'm just reading, again, what's on Brandon Davis's X feed here, so I'll keep you posted if we have anything big to report. Alrighty, we got Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse stuff here, including what looks to be like a new picture. Here's the details from what Brandon Davis saw at the presentation. Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse promises to go places it has never gone before. Footage is played in the 1.43 aspect ratio as they're making the movie formatted for PLF. Context is picking up where the last movie left off as Miles is looking for allies, even having to face himself. Welcome to the final chapter of Miles' story. And here's the footage description. Miles says there's no Spider-Man here before getting captured by Prowler from the other dimension. It's picking up right in the final scene. Uncle Aaron tells him he's not the Prowler before alternate Miles enters. Who are you? I'm Miles Morales, but you can call me the Prowler. Miles tells him he needs to let him go. Why would I do that? Tell me, who are you? I'm Miles Morales. They break into a funny banter about how to pronounce Morales and who they are. Our Miles explains canon events and that his dad is going to die and he needs to go. He tells him about different canon events and about Spider-Man. Aaron thinks the concept is ridiculous. Miles starts glitching and everyone backs up. Our Miles says, I don't want to hurt you. You know what they say. Don't watch the mouth, watch the hands. We get a one last time montage of unfinished footage. A car jumps a drawbridge. Miles fights with a sandbag tied to his back. You always gotta have a choice, Miles, or the choice makes you. Peter B., Spider-Ham, and Gwen seem to be primed for a fight. Punk questions Miles, thinking he could take down Miguel's whole gang. The screen is vertically split by different universes and different Spider characters at the bottom of the panels looking at the cities. And then there's a clip right here that looks like it's Miles going after the Prowler, is fighting with the Prowler. And it looks like, and yeah, it looks pretty damn cool. And it looks like we're going to see, as I'm glad to see that we're going to continue the story from where the last film left off. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what they do with this here. Looks like Jumanji is next up on here, so, and it'll be the last thing for Sony. So we're almost done here, so I'll give you some details on Jumanji in just a little bit. Alrighty, so we have some interesting things to talk about with Jumanji, including a title reveal, which is at the very end here, and I just saw it before I went back to the top of the page here, but Dwayne Johnson, Jack Black, and Kevin Hart are on stage to talk about the new Jumanji. DJ asks if the alcohol has kicked in yet, and Kevin says his has. He's drunk as shit. DJ tried to call out some theater employees specifically, but says, I can't see shit and I'm a little drunk. Kevin Hart jokes that DJ doesn't actually know these people and he's tired of the act. DJ calls back to Ellis, who opened the show, getting an award, and he says Ellis has 2 kids, aged 4 and 5, both taller than Kevin Hart. These two are hilarious together. Jack Black gets it back on track as they acknowledge Karen Gillan couldn't make it today. Hart shares her excitement and adds it to it on behalf of all 3 on stage. We're all lucky to do with a lot of things that we love, DJ says. Now that we're back 8 years later, Jack Black says it's his favorite of these movies yet. They start bantering until Kevin Hart says, I didn't have a good time. It was work showing up seeing this stupid fucking face every day. Hey, Kevin Hart could still be funny, man. Just don't do Ride Along 3. DJ adds, if I gotta see one more picture of Kevin's fucking golf game. Jack gets it back again. He starts describing the characters and calls for an applause for writer-director Jake Kasdan. The game rules don't apply in this movie, and it's the biggest of the franchise so far. This whole franchise would not have started without one man, and that's Robin Williams, DJ said. One half of the original dice that was used in the original movie, with him, is an Easter egg in this movie. DJ says that this movie, like the 2 before it, it's for Robin. They've just recently wrapped the movie in Hawaii. Rock takes one last dig at Kevin Hart before wrapping up the jokes and says he loves Kevin and introduces footage just for the people in the room. And the title of the movie is Jumanji Open World, premiering in December 2026. So we went from Welcome to the Jungle to the next level, and now Open World, which sounds like they're gonna continue the story from how the last movie ended when the game came to our world, and yeah. So that should be very interesting to see how that pans out here, and I'm really excited for that because I did like the other 2 Jumanji movies that these guys did. They were really good, and yeah, can't wait to see what they do with it. So I guess they already did the Legend of Zelda panel because that was because it said they were doing it 32 minutes ago, and then not but a couple minutes later, the thing was already over. So I was kind of surprised they didn't do much for the Legend of Zelda. I thought they would do something with the movie. It's still about a year away, but you would think we'd at least see something for it, but I think that's it. I'm going to wait for a little bit before I start wrapping this up to see if anything pops up here, but if not, we'll just go straight to recommendations and get on out of here. Alright, so the panel did come to an end. Sony is done for the night, but there's still a little bit more for Jumanji Open World that was just revealed here. So, and it does sound like it's literally starting after the events of the last movie, because it says here Lamont Morris is a handyman who discovers the old video game console in a basement. And if I remember correctly, that's how the end of the next level happened, with him and Bebe Neuwirth's character from the original Jumanji movie finding the video game there. But I haven't seen it in a while, so I'd have to double check on that. But Danny DeVito is shocked to see Dr. Bravestone in Nona's, a video game character now in the real world. This time, Bravestone is speaking with an overly sexy Latino accent and says, "Of course you know because of my charisma, CC." The characters and animals are in the real world and they're stuck in demo mode. Bravestone and Ruby Reese broke up. Jack Black's character realizes they're not in Jumanji. The guide wishes them luck and races off. Bravestone claims that the fate of Jumanji is in their hands, but Kevin Hart's character argues with him, and they go on to banter in Spanish. It's pretty damn funny. Rhinos, lizards, animals, and all kinds of stuff in the world. ATVs and two-wheelers and all kinds of adventures ensue in a ton of terrains, ranging from snow to lush sunny wolves and more. Bravestone invites his enemies to try and stop him. Him hits the people's eyebrow. The trailer ends with them back in the game, and the original players are inhabiting the characters as video game skins. It looks like a blast, ambitious and funny, and different from its predecessors. It definitely sounds like that. I mean, it looks like they're taking a little bit from Toy Story 3 too, where they have how Buzz had that thing in the back that put him into a Spanish, like a Spanish language accent in that movie. That feels like what they're doing here, and yeah, it gets me excited to see this movie, man. Like I said, I like the last two Jumanji movies, so I'm really excited to see what they do with this one here. But that's gonna wrap up the panel there, and I mean, nothing too big, nothing too spectacular, but we did get some details on stuff that's coming out. But nevertheless, it was interesting to actually see that footage, see that stuff for the first time ever. So, I mean, I got nothing else for you. I mean, I was gonna try to do this every night of the thing to see if any news broke, but yeah, I don't know if I'm going to do it again for the next couple of days. But if there's anything big that breaks, we'll talk about it this Sunday on the Reviewing Network Live. But let's get to some recommendations so we can get on out of here. And in terms of new stuff this week, what do we have here? Tomorrow's the 14th, and it looks like another week of nothing but catalog titles. I mean, it looks like stuff like The Phantom is coming out on 4K, the Billy Zane movie from Kino Lorber. Kino Lorber is also putting out 4Ks for Runaway Train. Remo Williams, Meet the Fockers is getting a 4K release this week. Monty Python's The Life of Brian is coming on Criterion on 4K, so that should be interesting. It doesn't look like there's anything else worth talking about this week. It's another slow week. What did we have last week? Mercy, I guess, was the big newest release from last week. It was more catalog titles, so yeah, that's about it. That's about it for this, and thank you so much for joining me on this. I know that this is an unusual thing for this to be on a Monday night, but nevertheless, we're here, we did it, and feeling a lot better than I did yesterday, so that's good. So, with that said, thank you so much for joining me. I will see you guys this Sunday for a new episode on its regular night, and if you like this and want to see more videos like this, hit the like button, subscribe button, notification button, check out our last episode, check out our playlist, and I will see you guys on Sunday with an all-new episode. So thank you so much for watching and listening, and I'll see you guys next time. Until then, we are out.